Kyle Larson just answered a question NASCAR fans have been asking for 8 years, and the answer is not what anybody expected. It's not Rick Hendrick. It's not a sponsor. It's not even Larson himself. The people who will decide what happens to the number 5 car after 2031 haven't even started high school yet. To understand how we got here, we have to rewind to June 2018. Kyle Larson was 25 years old, driving for Chip Ganassi Racing, still building his name in the Cup Series. During an interview on the Open Red podcast, he said something that would follow him for years. He wanted to eventually leave full-time NASCAR competition and chase a full-winged sprint car championship, and he wanted to do it before turning 40. Shortly after, the World of Outlaws account asked him directly on social media when he'd run full-time with the series. Larson's reply was 3 words, "Before I'm 40. The reaction from a chunk of the NASCAR fanbase was not kind. Some fans who only followed stock car racing took it as a slap in the face, like Larson was just punching the clock in NASCAR until he could go do what he actually loved. The money now, the passion later, according to that theory. Larson pushed back hard in a follow-up interview with AutoWeek's Matt Weaver. He said the money was great, sure, but he wouldn't be there if he didn't love NASCAR and have fun every week. He talked about how special the NASCAR fan culture was to him, and he closed with a line that left zero room for interpretation. The fans who thought he didn't like NASCAR were crazy. Here's the piece of context that usually gets left out of that story. At the time, Chip Ganassi Racing had Larson locked into a strict dirt racing limit, roughly 30 events a year, with none allowed during the playoffs. He was boxed in. Part of that, "Before I'm 40" promise was really a reaction to a leash he wanted off of, not a genuine plan to abandon NASCAR. That leash doesn't exist anymore. Hendrick Motorsports has let him run an enormous dirt schedule right alongside his full Cup Series commitments, and that freedom completely changed how he weighs the trade-off. Now fast forward to late July 2026. Speaking with Motorsport.com, Larson was asked directly whether he still planned to chase that sprint car championship before turning 40. His answer reframed the whole conversation. 40 is still circled on his calendar, but it's no longer an exit date, it's a checkpoint. "I started saying this last year, but 40 is my next milestone," Larson said. "I want to get there and then evaluate if I want to keep going or be done. It all depends on where my kids are in their lives and interests." Then came the actual bombshell. "As far as competing for a sprint car championship, I would say right now in 2026 that I have changed my mind on that. I feel like I've accomplished a lot since I made those comments. I've been able to win 3 Knoxville Nationals, 3 Chili Bowls, and a King's Royal, all the other races." Think about what that resume means. When Larson made his original promise, those trophies were still out ahead of him. Now they're in the rearview mirror. He's won the Knoxville Nationals 3 times. He's won the Chili Bowl 3 times. He's got a King's Royal. On top of that, he co-founded High Limit Racing with his brother-in-law Brad Sweet, building it into a legitimate national challenger to the World of Outlaws. The scarcity that made a full-time title chase attractive simply isn't there anymore. And then there's the arithmetic side of it. "I just don't know what a championship would add to my career, so I'm just not into the idea now," Larson said. "And like I said, I think my kids are going to be busy doing their own racing by that time. So do I really want to commit to an 80 to 90 race schedule?" Then he laughed and added, "That's way busier than I am now." That's the real story here. The ambition didn't disappear, the urgency did. He's already collected the trophies that build a dirt racing legacy. A full points championship would mean 80 to 90 races a year. That's not chasing a missing accomplishment anymore. That's just a grind for its own sake. Which brings us to the 3 people who actually control the timeline now. Owen Larson is 12 and already racing. Audrey is 8 and has started racing too. Cooper is closing in on the age where he can start. Their schedules, not their dad's, are what's going to shape the next decade. Larson laid this out himself back in November 2025, right before winning his second championship at Phoenix. Why 40? Well, Owen will be 18. Audrey will be mid-teens. Cooper will be about 10. "I think life is going to look completely different for them," he said. "If Owen's racing, or Audrey's racing, whatever, they'll have a lot going on in their lives then. I would think right now I'd want to be a part of that." That's the real pivot. Whatever comes after the Cup Series for Kyle Larson might not involve him driving a race car at all. It might mean standing on the other side of the pit wall, watching his own kids do it instead. Now, before anyone treats any of this like a retirement announcement, let's be clear about the contract situation. In February 2026, Larson signed a 5-year extension with Hendrick Motorsports running through 2031. Crew chief Cliff Daniel signed on for multiple additional years right alongside him. Larson's own take on the deal was pretty low-key. I don't get too wrapped up in the duration or all of that. I really just thought it's nice to know I'll be here for at least 5 years and hopefully more, he said. I just get to work on trying to win more races and more championships in the time I'm there. So yeah, grateful, and I think it's a very long-term contract compared to what you see these days. I think that gets me close to 40, and then we'll see after that. And here's a detail that shows exactly how much Hendrick Motorsports values him. Rick Hendrick has publicly said he would have signed Larson to a lifetime contract if Larson had been open to it. So the honest framing is this: nothing changes before 2031 at the earliest. Everything else being discussed is about a driver who's already 41 years old. Now here's the part that complicates the whole picture. Heading into the Brickyard 400 in late July 2026, Larson had gone 45 races without a win, dating all the way back to Kansas Speedway in May 2025. That's the longest drought of his entire Hendrick Motorsports career, and it started right after he clinched the 2025 championship at Phoenix. But look closer at the numbers, and this isn't a speed problem, it's a closing problem. At Bristol, he led 284 laps and swept both stages, but finished third. At Kansas, he led 78 laps and won a stage before strategy dropped him to second. At Las Vegas, he led 62 laps before fading to seventh. Across the first 11 races of 2026 alone, he led 499 laps, one of the highest totals in the entire garage, and turned exactly none of them into a win. The rough stretch that followed looks worse on paper than it actually was. A 34th at Chicagoland came after leading 23 laps and spinning from second. A 34th at Echo Park came after a strong run got wiped out in a late crash. A 15th at North Wilkesboro followed early pit road damage that buried him a lap down. Before those 3 races, he'd finished top 5 in 5 of the previous 6. Crew chief Cliff Daniels addressed it head-on with NASCAR.com, pointing to a team that started the season with 4 new members and has been focused on tightening its weekly process, practice, qualifying, in-race adjustments. He said confidence is building in the process even when the results haven't caught up yet, and admitted this sport punishes you fast if you're even a % or 2 off anywhere. Rick Hendrick reportedly met with the group directly to reinforce that message. Larson's own read was refreshingly blunt: "I think you guys pay attention to it way more than I pay attention to it. Obviously I would have loved to have won by this point, but we just haven't been good enough." Asked where the car actually stacks up right now, he didn't sugarcoat it: a 4th to 7th place car, and the job is finishing there. So does the winless streak change the retirement math? The evidence says no. This decision is family-driven, not results-driven, and Larson signed through 2031 before the drought even hit a full year. Still, there's a fair counterpoint: drivers who stop winning tend to find the exit sooner, and fans have already started wondering if he goes the entire 2026 season without a trophy. The more reasonable read is that the streak affects his legacy math, not his calendar math. Chasing wins is what keeps him in the car past 40, it's not what pushes him out. So what's he actually chasing now? Larson sits tied for 32 career wins, right around 29th all-time, 8 wins shy of cracking the top 20. His stated target is Tony Stewart. "I'll never catch Jeff, so I don't think about Jeff," Larson said. "Tony's in the mid-50s. If I could get to that, I'd be pretty satisfied. A 3rd championship would put him among just 11 drivers in history. A 4th would place him alongside Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, and Richard Petty. And it's worth noting, the dirt door isn't fully closed either. Just not a full title chase. High-limit racing ownership, the Chili Bowl, and Knoxville are all staying on the calendar. There's also a reason that sprint car title was always going to be a long shot in the first place. Only a handful of drivers have ever won a national touring championship in their 40s: Steve Kinzer, Donnie Schatz, Danny Lasowski. Larson's own brother-in-law Brad Sweet retired from full-time sprint car racing at 39. The tweet in 2018 said, "Before I'm 40. The answer in 2026 is, ask me at 40. And the real headline isn't retirement at all, it's that the decision now belongs to a 12-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 3-year-old. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed for more NASCAR news, analysis, and fan discussion every week.